Hey everyone, this is Rob Adams for the Actors Workshop, and when I started this whole segment of In the Abyss, the whole idea was, it was actually when COVID began and there was lockdowns, etc. The whole idea was to give videos to actors and especially my students during that downtime to kind of just keep their minds and their thought process about what we do fresh. Now, we're back in class and we are doing classes and it's going better than ever and all of this great stuff. But there are times when I'm watching movies or TV shows, or I just think of something and I go, yeah, I gotta put it in an episode of In the Abyss, and that way it's there, and if the students or other actors want to reference it, it's always sitting there. And lately the theme of languages and accents, and even more specifically, watching actors playing people who really existed have been an underlining theme and things I've been seeing, and it's kind of made me want to cover this for actors, because I was watching something last night and it kind of triggered me why actors fail with this. So let's start with accents, languages. It comes down to preparation, okay? I'm going to start that way. It comes down to preparation. And the preparation is, if you know your dialogue, if you know your stuff, now you can concentrate on the other person. You can worry about the other stuff. And you have to be so prepared with that language or so prepared with that accent that when you are speaking, it's just there. It's repetition. It's like anything we do in life. The more you rep it, the more that it naturally happens. The problem is with actors, they do the work, but they don't do the work. So a lot of times, dialogue, accents, movements, things that we should be doing naturally are sitting in the front of the brain. What we have to do is know it so well so it sits in the back of the brain, so it's just there, right? And that takes work. You have to work hard at knowing your dialogue. You have to work hard at learning different tones in an accent, or the way that it sounds. You don't want to sound like an actor who is speaking with an accent. You don't want to sound like an actor who's trying to do a language. You want to sound like that's the way you speak. So when people watch you, and let's say they don't really know who you are, a great example I always use for this is Kevin Kline in French Kiss. If you did not know who Kevin Kline was, and some people don't know who he is, right? You would think he's French. That's how good he is in that movie. That's the point you want to get to, is that if people don't know, or even if your friends do know, or people that you do know, that I didn't know you spoke that language. I didn't know that you had that accent. Minnie Driver is another great example of this. You know, one movie she's doing a British accent, one movie she's not. And if you didn't know at the beginning, which I did not, I didn't know which one she was. Was she an American actress doing a British accent, or was she a British actress doing an American accent? Well, we know the answer to that, but that's what you want to get to, is that it just sounds like that's how you speak. On a bigger note, and this is the thing I'm noticing the most, is when you play people, and I hate using that term because you're not really playing them. You have to be them as much and as close to as possible. How do I phrase this? That doesn't sound right. You have to be that person as much as you humanly can, but you're never becoming them. So you have to have an element of you. And that's the thing that actors don't understand, is that when you're trying to be somebody else that existed, even if you were doing a character who didn't exist, it's easier because it is. Ferris Bueller is what Matthew Broderick made it. So, you know, it's what we know. But when you're playing somebody, I mean, you know, we just had a Lucille Ball movie. We got an Elvis movie coming out. I was just watching this thing about, you know, I watched about 5 minutes of it before I had to turn it off. The First Ladies show on Showtime, where you have Eleanor Roosevelt, Michelle Obama, and Betty Ford. And the problem is when actors try to play characteristics of another person, what they don't understand is you are mimicking those characteristics. In real life, those characteristics just happen. So how can you make characteristics that don't happen in you just happen in playing somebody else? You can't. You cannot do it. And if you do try to do those characteristics, it's going to be false, it's going to be fake, and it's going to be distracting. And that's exactly what I'm seeing. And I'm seeing it by actors and actresses who are really, 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 really good at their craft. But they're falling into that trap of, now look, you could say, well, wait a second, Rob, what if it's directed? Or, what if they're told that? Or what if they're trying something new? All of it's fine. But you better do it so well that it seems like it's your characteristic. It's not like you're putting on a characteristic, right? The hard part, and I get it, is Lucille Ball had naturally great instincts. So trying to create instincts is never going to look real. It's always going to look fake. People do certain things with their mouth or with their face and stuff like that. That naturally happens. Okay? You cannot create that and make it look natural because you're pretending to do those characteristics because they're not in you. So then the next question is, well, Rob, what do you do then? Well, number one, realize you're hired because you look the part. You look like the person you're supposed to be playing. Number two, naturally give it the hints that you have in you that make people believe what they're already going in to watch is added on to that. A great example of this is not Johnny Depp, Joaquin Phoenix in Walk the Line. His voice is not as deep as Johnny Cash's. The characteristics are Joaquin's, they're not Johnny Cash's. But you're watching a movie called Walk the Line. They're telling you he's Johnny Cash. He gives you a little bit of that voice. He gives you a little bit of the body language, which you can emulate, right, without being pretend. That's easier. Elvis used to do the thing with the rings and the stuff on his fingers, and Kurt Russell in Elvis the movie did a phenomenal job with that. And you can do a little bit of the stuttering. I don't know, mama. That kind of stuff that Elvis did, and it's plenty. And Kurt Russell was so good at it because that's all he did, right? Real quick, and then I regress. So give me a second here. Kurt Russell in Miracle plays Herb Brooks, who was a legendary hockey coach. And once again, I use this a lot in class. That Herb Brooks had certain characteristics. Kurt Russell really didn't give those characteristics. He just gave you Kurt Russell with a little bit of that Canadian sound in his voice. And when the movie came out, the people who knew Kurt Russell said they saw Kurt Russell. And the people who knew Herb Brooks said they saw Herb Brooks. Job done. You're already hired to be that person, right? So when you're talking about characteristics, once again, something they do with a mouth or something like that, like I was talking about, you just can't emulate that. You have to be able to just ignore that kind of stuff because once again, you look the part. You enhance a little bit like we were talking about with Joaquin, right? You enhance the voice a little bit of the body language, and people buy in because they want to believe they're watching Johnny Cash. That's why they're watching the movie. And if you give them just a little bit, Jamie Foxx in Ray, right? Just a little bit of the behaviors with someone who's blind, right? But you see Jamie, and you also get hints a little bit of how Ray Charles spoke. But once again, more of the physicality and less of the characteristics. Because once again, you cannot naturally show characteristics. Those are naturally those person's characteristics. Just like naturally you have your own characteristics. If you play yourself straight on with a little bit of hint here and there, it will work. Because you're already hired. I can't stress this enough. You're already hired for the part. And that's why if you watch the ones that succeed, like some of the ones I've mentioned, Reese and Joaquin are phenomenal. Walk the Line. Reese is another great example, right? It's Reese Witherspoon with a little bit of a southern accent. That's it. Nothing else. Listen to them sing and then listen to the real songs and tell me if they sound the same. They don't. They don't. But yet we buy it every time we watch the movie. Watch Brad Pitt as Billy Bean. You're watching Brad Pitt. But you think you're watching Billy Bean because they tell you his name is Billy. That's how it works. So when you just do yourself with a little bit of hint, a little bit of ingredient, it's enough. When you try to do characteristics, you're going to fail because it'll look pretend because you cannot instinctively match people's characteristics, their impulses, their instincts. You can't. It's theirs. Okay? So remember, A, hard work. Got to know your dialogue. right? Gotta practice languages, gotta practice accents, and gotta practice characteristics. So it's just second nature. So you're not thinking about it, it's just happening. Beyond that, you're gonna act, and you don't want to act. All right? So hopefully that helps you with this kind of element, because this question does come up. Remember, it always still comes back to being yourself and being as real as yourself in the situation. And even if you're playing somebody else, be as real as yourself, being as real as you can. Once again, I don't want to use the word playing, but representing the person you're playing. Remind yourself, I'm casted in this role because I fit this role, no matter what the role is. That's why you're cast in this role. Now, be you, and sometimes you have to add these little hints with accents or languages or characteristics, more so of the behavior, less of the instinctive part. Okay? If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to leave a comment in the comment section or drop me an email at theactorsworkshop@cox.net. Also, subscribe if you haven't yet. Pass on to your friends. If you're not part of the workshop, please reach out. If you are, watch these things, learn from these things. Last video, one of my students, Mariah Justice, she watched it 3 times. And if that's what it takes to get that through your thick skull, then you do that, right? I'm not saying Mariah has a thick skull, but I want you guys to be able to hear it over and 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 over, and that's how you're going to get better, right? The old saying in coaching is you tell somebody 100,000 times the same thing till they get it right, and then you tell them 100,000 more, and that's what we're doing. All right, I hope you have a great week. Hopefully we'll have another video soon. Until then, have a great Monday.